Hello and welcome back to the Bilingualism class. My name is Dennis and here's my assistant Bob, who will be helping us with really tough questions. So today's topic is change in multilingual patterns in a modern globalized world. So the 21st century can be characterized by globalization at a number of different levels. And this globalization has had a major impact on the changing face of multilingualism around the world. So what are these? Bob, what do you think the major reasons are? Yes, that's true. First, spread of global languages like English, Spanish, Chinese. Second is the increase of bilingualism in a metropolitan language, which is, of course, English. And third is the extinction of many smaller languages due to the spread of fewer word languages like, again, English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, especially in the Soviet times, when Russian was quite popular in different ex-Soviet republics. Nonetheless, Russian is still popular in some ex-Soviet republics. And until recently, Russian has been quite popular in Western Europe, precisely because of rapid influx of Russian-speaking tourists. For example, in Cyprus, Russian is already occupying similar positions as English in terms of tourism industry. So let's take each reason one by one. First is the spread of global languages. So we have to go back to European colonization of the New World that created many such spreads in major European languages. Today, an Indo-European language, either English, Spanish or Portuguese, is the dominant language and culture practically in every country in North, Central and South America. Right? The second reason is the increasing bilingualism in a metropolitan language, that is English. And here again we have to go back to the Industrial Revolution period, where English-speaking countries and of course England itself dominated the world trade. And this has made English the international language of business and printing. And of course we can't separate it from the sphere of education. We know that English has been occupying really strong positions in the educational systems across the globe. So having said this, we can argue that globalization has made drastic changes in the life of different populations that speak different languages. So different transnational companies, internet communications, social media, fast and cheap travels, movement of population, and of course the educational sphere, they all have contributed to more intense language contact, and as a result this has had a direct impact on language shift or language loss. And the third reason is the extinction of many smaller languages. We live in a world of approximately 7,000 languages, which is quite a lot. So basically, which means that we live in a highly multilingual world. Nonetheless, it is believed that by the end of this century, more than half of the world's languages will be extinct. According to other estimates, it is believed that up to 90% of the existing languages will become extinct or will be out of frequent use. So, in a world where cultural survival is viable only in connection with well-defined geopolitical boundaries, the nation-state plays a key role in determining which languages will survive and which will not. So the different status of languages between minority and majority in different places could potentially lead to a language loss situation. For example, if one language is assigned a very low prestige, the speakers of this particular language are more prone to abandon it in favor of a higher prestige language because it may bring them economic benefits. And it's often the case that the country, the national state, doesn't want other languages to exist on its territory other than the main national language. But what's interesting is that food, dresses, songs are often accepted and allowed to be part of the mainstream culture, but language of the minority group is not, or is seldom allowed. And in this regard, let me tell you one example. Last year, my students and I and my colleague, we all went to an expedition to a remote place on the other side of Russia, which is called Vladivostok. If you want, check it out where it is. It took us 8 or 9 hours non-stop flight. It was quite interesting because normally you perceive Russia as like one uniform country. However, what we found there, we were looking at different ethnic and linguistic groups that resided in that particular area, which borders China and Korea. And there is a large community of ethnic Koreans who nonetheless perceive themselves as Russians and not Koreans, despite the fact that they look differently. They have Asian features. So, in this expedition, we came in contact with the Russian-Korean center, and these Koreans, they basically adopted Russian names. But, interestingly, they kept Korean surnames. For example, you could find a person who would be Volodya Kim. Volodya is the name and Kim is the surname. So officially it would be, for example, Vladimir Vladimirovich Kim. They also kept their dresses, their dances, their music, including food, but not language. So basically they have shifted totally to the Russian language, and they have experienced language loss, so they don't speak the Korean language. And in an informal conversation with the representative of the Korean Cultural Center in the area, they pointed out that the language component was not central to them. What's interesting is that they still kept their surnames. So, for homework, I would like you to discuss why, taking into consideration the political, socio-historical and cultural factors, why do you think and how the community of Russian Koreans could change the situation with the Korean language? So what measures, in other words, should be taken by the community members to change the situation? And write the answer in the comments below. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you later.